Dying Light 2's new nightmare difficulty is already insane, but what if you could only use pipes?
Yoink.
They're already some of the weakest weapons in the game, but to make it even more difficult, I'll be limiting myself to doing it only during the night, where volatiles lurk around every corner. Hope you're ready, because the nightmare starts now. While the first cutscene plays in the background, let me tell you a bit about the challenge. In Dying Light 2, there's no weapon specifically called a pipe like there was in the first game. Well, okay, maybe there's like one. But the point is, most of the weapons I'll be using in this challenge, I had to eyeball the picture of myself to see if it actually looked like a pipe or not. If I wasn't sure, I simply didn't use it. That brings me to the next important bit of business, the nighttime only aspect of the challenge. Same as in the first Dying Light, you don't have to worry about naturally encountering the darkness until you get through the prologue. The prologue lasts until we go to the hospital later with Hakon and get the biomarker, so make sure you enjoy the daylight while it's around, because in this challenge, the light really is dying, and once it's gone, we'll never see it again for the rest of the game. Or at least, sorta. As soon as we get the first cutscene over with where we get blunt force trauma from this person, I'm instantly surprised with a gift from Hakon that just so happens to be what appears to be a pipe called the first mace. This is what I mean by you really have to pay attention to what they look like by their item image or how they look in your hand, because personally when I think of a mace, I think of one of these two things, and yeah, that doesn't seem right. I'm extremely fortunate for getting this pipe from Hakon because otherwise I would have had to kill these first zombies at Killian's house in a similar way that I did in the guns only challenge by not using anything. This being the only pipe in my arsenal right now, I have to use it extremely sparingly until I find another one to replace it when it breaks. Because for whatever reason, in Dying Light 2, it costs approximately 3 private islands to repair your weapon at a quartermaster. So to kill the zombies efficiently, I smacked them off this ledge when they tried to climb up. And thanks to this, I have absolutely no issues. The hospital section afterward can pretty much be entirely skipped since you can actually just run through it. And after getting my first inhibitor and escaping, the open world is unlocked and it's time to say goodbye to the light. From now on, after every single mission, if it's daytime, we must run directly back to a bed to sleep and make it night again if possible. There are a few instances like that throughout the game, but for the most part, I'm going to be in constant danger from volatiles for the rest of the game. This is going to be fun. Now finally able to play the game however the heck I want, I need to find a couple more weapons to use and fast. Because the last thing I want is to be in the middle of a mission and run out of pipes to use. If that happens, I'll either have to quit out of the mission or try to find a way through it without attacking in any way. At first, I took a look in my extra inventory to see if there was anything in there I could use, but there was nothing. Then I tried to repair my broken weapons. Again, a private island. Why is it this expensive to repair a level 1 common blunt weapon? The only other place I could really try was at the general store that sells 4 weapons at a time. And while I was unlucky this time around, there was actually a trick that I could use for this. If you turn around, leave, and step foot even 1 centimeter outside of the gates, then walk back in, the store will have different items in it. So you already know it. I abused the heck out of this a few times simply to see what I could possibly watch out for in terms of weapons. For example, this one was called a plumber's choice, but I had no idea if that was a pipe or not, so I didn't use it. But this weapon was literally called a cooler pipe, so it was definitely allowed. This is a helpful trick to do and all, but eventually I'm going to run out of money, so I need to find a renewable way to get more pipes that I can use throughout the rest of the challenge. After digging through the wiki, I managed to find, as far as I can tell, one single mission that had something that might be a pipe blueprint as a reward for completing it. I wasn't entirely sure if this would be a pipe because there was no image of the blueprint on the wiki, but it was at least something that I could work towards. So I set out. The mission in question is called Cheers, and you specifically only get the weapon blueprint if you kill Marco and get the good quest ending. I use those words in quotes because both of these guys are stupid. Marco because he knowingly bottled water that was contaminated when a viral fell into the tub to get back at thieves, and Julian because he mixes the flour he sells with plaster to make a quick buck with less work. But in any case, not my problem. I just want to get the reward for completing the quest. By the end of the mission, not only is the weapon blueprint a pipe, thank goodness, but I even get a stinky pipe for my troubles. Yay! Counterintuitive to everything I just said and went through though, I actually don't end up using this crafting recipe for quite a while. At least not until I get it upgraded a bit. With the stinky pipe I just got as a reward for completing that quest, we have enough to last us a while anyway. So for now, I move on. Considering the entire challenge will be done during the nighttime, this essentially means the whole game will be just one big chase, since volatiles are omnipotent and the equivalent to Liam Neeson.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
So in an attempt to combat them, I spend the next boatload of hours just running around getting as many inhibitors as I possibly can. I even go a little overboard and fight a GRE anomaly, actually killing it on my first try despite there being random volatiles showing up throughout the fight. I kind of did this fight on a whim, so I couldn't be happier that I actually managed to do it without dying. By the time I'm done, I end up getting enough inhibitors to get my stamina to level 6, along the way getting my parkour to 3. In this game, you pretty much can't go wrong with parkour skills, so I'll be shooting to get as many of them as possible. But when it comes to combat, I didn't have a reason to get anything more than a couple of skills like perfect dodge and parry, block projectiles, and power attack. Basically, if it does damage in any capacity, just assume that I won't even be unlocking it since I don't want to accidentally dropkick or cause damage in an illegitimate way to the challenge. Let's just say I'm already starting to feel how much more XP you get by running around and doing things at night. I'm feeling a little bit better at this point now that I don't get winded from a brisk 10-second jog, so I continue on with the main missions, encountering Barney. The more I play, the less I like this guy, so I think you know what path I'm going in this playthrough. After gaining the Bazaar's trust by running a few side errands, Sophie tasks me with saving Barney's sorry ass. This is another one of those instances where I'm simply able to dodge out of the way, then knock them off this ledge with a few hits to save durability. Funnily enough, even for the virals that can climb back up, they just go, nah, and give up. Thanks to their incompetence, Barney scampers away with his tail between his legs, and I'm able to proceed. This mission is a good indicator of how the night can affect the story. Usually the worst you have to deal with during the arrival quest is the fact that the bandits love to throw stuff at you with 100% accuracy at all times, but Volatiles make everything so much worse. Luckily, the one that you just saw terrorizing me got caught in a UV area and couldn't get away. But trust me, that's not the last I've seen of them. The rest of the enemies are extremely easy to take care of so long as I don't screw up horribly. I just boop them into some spikes after perfect dodging. On Nightmare difficulty with these pipes, if I attacked them normally, it'd take about 12 hits to kill them, so this is much more effective. That mission pretty much slingshots me directly into the raid, which pits me almost entirely solo against an entire bandit camp. This goes much better, actually. There's a lot of ways that you can go about this mission. You can climb up to the top and turn off their power to let zombies kill them, have your team help you, stealth through and be as sneaky as possible. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do it. You guys know I go into this loud. Essentially, I employ the same strategy I have been, using as little durability of my pipe as possible to knock them into a spike or a place that they can't stand, and take them out quickly. This method is incredibly effective, as you can tell by the pile of corpses on the ground. The absolute funniest part of this is when you take out the big boss guy of the camp in this way. Bravo, Techland. More stuff like this, please. It's so satisfying. After the raid, I decided to skip out on the Herman fight since, honestly, I just really like to fight Barney. There's probably a way that I could fight Barney and Herman, but I wasn't aware of it at the time of recording, so I just went with what I know. Instead, I go talk to Ader, and then convince these two dudes who stole the water tower to hand it over in exchange for my helping them. I, of course, never ended up helping them though, because I forgot, so, you know. Whoops. I then give control of the water tower over to the Peacekeepers to make sure that I fight Barney later, and then head over to his and Sophie's hideout to search for clues in regards to Lucas's death. Oh boy, you better believe when I say I found a clue. Ew! I never really thought for a single moment that Barney would actually be Lucas's killer, but it was an excuse to smack him around, so I'm all in. This fight was actually so much more difficult than it needed to be simply because I refused to upgrade my health or medkits past level 1. One hit from him takes half my health away, and then it takes a full 3 seconds to wrap this bandage around my forearm to heal. It also doesn't help that seemingly at random times the dodge refuses to work, or I just couldn't figure out the correct timing for it and he would hit me even though I clearly moved out of the way. So after like 10 back-to-back deaths, I finally had enough and locked in. You don't even need to kill him here, just get his health low enough to trigger a cutscene. And now with my full focus, that's precisely what I did. Well, it's finally time to leave this dump behind us. After dropping Barney off at the Peacekeeper daycare, Hakon and I make our way through the tunnels to get to the city. Things go terribly wrong in a multitude of ways, but in terms of the challenge, it wasn't difficult in the slightest. All I have to do is stand right up here on this light and smack the virals as they attempt to jump at me. See, I gave Hakon the GRE key to help me get out, and he just ran away. So now the goal is to survive until Anderson returns with a way to get me out of here. And after surfacing out of a manhole like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I get abducted by Barney. Turns out Barney is still a little bit peeved that I gave the water tower to the PKs, and now it's time for our final showdown. For whatever reason, I had an infinitely easier time this go around, even though I'm outnumbered 3-1. If I take even a single hit, I make sure to create enough space for me to get a heal off, since I still haven't upgraded my health yet, and then proceed to systematically take them down one by one. The small guys were one thing. Whenever they would go to do a big hit, you can counter with a small one, and knock them out of their focus. You can even slip in a baby attack every now and then to take them by surprise. This strategy eventually left me with just Barney to worry about, and since his fight is essentially the same exact fight as earlier, it goes much better because I actually have space to maneuver and dodge and anything else. The technique I used to beat him ranged anywhere from perfect dodging, perfect blocking, baby attacks, and counter power attacks. But the really big one that helped me was charging a power attack and executing it right when he turns a corner. Who'd have thought that if you can't see an attack coming, you can't avoid it?
Fantastic!
Turns out I have a few more things to do before I can leave Old Villador, so let's get them out of the way as soon as possible. I meet up with Hakon, find out he's a big fat phony, chase down the sniper who's out to kill him, then I fight a charger that's pretty much no issue whatsoever to take care of, and get Yu-Gi-Oh! Obliterated by Waltz. You'd think being forced into the Dead Island Fury state afterward would be a big issue for the challenge, right? Well, luckily for me, for whatever reason, when you go volatile, you're not you in your Hungry Aiden mode. All you have to do is Goomba stomp one of the enemies, and the game's satisfied with that, you're able to move on. Look, they don't even die, they just fall over when you land on top of them. I don't know why it's like this, but it's kinda funny, so I always let it slide. Unfortunately for the car, factory area, and the Waltz chase that follows, you're unable to make it night, so this is one of those few moments where it'll be daytime. I was afraid of my weapons breaking in this area in between areas, so this was the first time I really attempted to get through it without fighting. To my surprise, not only was it possible, it actually worked wonderfully. Usually when playing normally, I take out most if not all of the enemies before proceeding, but this time around they missed every throwable on me. This isn't something that I feel could be a viable, repeatable strategy since it's pretty much RNG if they hit you or not with their ranged attacks, but it was still cool to see anyway. A brisk jog later while being chased by a bloodthirsty half-man, half-volatile, you know, the usual, Luan and I make it to the city just in time to watch the light die again. Man, they really are driving home this infinite darkness thing. But anyway, now that I've unlocked the paraglider, not only do I immediately sleep to make it night again for the challenge, but I also need to tell you all a special caveat to the paraglider on the Nightmare difficulty. If I were playing during the daytime or any difficulty under Nightmare, I'd be totally fine. But for whatever reason, Techland thought it'd be a great idea to make the paraglider almost worthless during the nights in Nightmare difficulty. I have 260 stamina here at this point in the game, and this is how long I'm able to glide on the paraglider. If I didn't have the glider's movement tech at my disposal, I would pretty much never use it, because you only really cover about 30 feet of distance before plummeting to Earth. I guess I'm stuck down here with the Volatiles after all. But now to help out the Three Stooges here get their substation back. Right as I'm about to enter, however, a random band of renegades comes, and we gotta take them out. You don't really have to do anything here. Your teammates are invincible as far as I know, and you can just let them take care of it. So I stood up on top of this building, hitting them when they come up. I love the ragdolls in this game. Once inside, the substations themselves are incredibly easy. It's pretty much just a puzzle, but every place I get from now on will be given over to the survivors since without the paraglider at my disposal, I'm going to really need more mobile ways of traversing and getting away from chases. As I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty much constantly in a chase in this challenge when moving from A to B. If Spider-Man has spider sense, then these volatiles have something similar that only alert them to my general location. I'm gonna need all the help that I can get. Speaking of, I think now is the perfect time to do some preparations for the rest of the challenge. We're a little under halfway through the game at this point, and I'm still running around with random garbage I picked up along the way, including bandages. So first things first, it's time I got a better weapon than a pipe-shaped pool noodle. The thing that was holding me back for so long was infected trophies, but thanks to the charger from earlier, I have a couple of both kinds to spare, allowing me to get my plumber's hammer blueprint to artifact level. Not only will the durability be better and I won't have to worry about them breaking so often, but this little arrow icon means that the weapon will do more damage as I gain levels. It was definitely a no-brainer. Unfortunately though, this means that my medicine blueprint will have to remain at level 2 for a while longer. But the way I see it is if you don't get hit, you won't take damage, so I'll just have to get good. The next thing I do for preparation is more inhibitor and gear farming. There is a crazy good place to go to get some new gear, but it's clear at the bottom of the map and also requires some swimming. So just be glad I have the power of editing to speed this process along, because this took me over an hour in real life to accomplish. I was originally going to sell all the gear, but you see, Dying Light 2 has a super bad habit of absolutely screwing you over. You're telling me these artifact grade gloves with 5 affixes are worth 1 gold? I think not, sir. I return to the canteen just in time to talk to my best friend Daniel, and wouldn't you know it, we get attacked. Again, unfortunately, this is an area where the time of day is automatically adjusted for you, so nothing I can do about that. But with my brand new weapons, this defense mission was almost too easy compared to what I was used to this whole time. I was initially afraid of the time limit that's imposed on me, since I just fail the mission if we don't defuse the cannons in time, but after just 3 or 4 landed hits, their heads are ready literally to just pop. Ew. Look, I even took out Vision from the Avengers. What is he doing here? With that out of the way, I now am tasked with finding Ro to tell him to pull back because Jack Matt needs him to have a full team for Shuffleboard later, and let me tell you that he does not like that one bit. The whole reason Aiden agreed to do this was because Ro might have had answers for where I can find a terminal to use the GRE key or something, but he's too mad to respond to me, so this whole thing was just a big fat waste of time. I guess at the very least on the way I saw some odd stuff, like this Houdini refusing to let gravity work on her. I'm telling you, this playthrough was weird, man. The next big hurdle I had to get over, trying to find some UV bulbs so we can raid the VNC tower. This section of the game is already pretty difficult on its own, since this is our first encounter with a demolisher, but add on top of that, limiting myself to pipes only, it only makes matters way worse. But not nearly as bad as the nighttime only aspect, since now I didn't have to just deal with the demolisher, I also had to deal with random volatiles and other virals crashing the party. The demo himself was difficult but not too bad since I had my rope jumps to help me move around and deal damage whenever possible. But after he's gone, the mission is updated to clear the area of the infected. Basically, to translate, if there's even a single zombie within the whole city block of this location, the quest will not complete. I tried everything over and over and over again to take out the volatiles, but it's like they just weren't even taking damage. That is, until eventually, after running back after a death, the volatiles just disappeared. Not sure where they went, but they were just simply gone. That's not exactly how I would like to have finished this mini challenge, but hey, I can't complain. The next Demolisher fight on top of this building was much easier, aside from the fact he constantly threw his fellow zombie friends at my face. But eventually I got it taken care of, securing the bulbs for the VNC tower mission. To finish up the prep for the mission, I had to go to this electrical substation that had just been taken over by the Renegades, but then it was time for the dreaded VNC tower itself, the place that killed off all of the Night Runners. It's a new day at this point, and I was absolutely pumped to beat this challenge. Thanks to the constant running for my life from the Volatiles every single night, my parkour level was higher at this point in the game than any other challenge I've completed up until now. I could not be more ready, so I ran right to Ro to get started. Hey, where's Basky? How you doing? Firstly, I'm supposed to save some soldiers that got trapped when the power went out like 4 times, and to do that, the game wants me to stealth past all these Volatiles in this room.
Nope.
I made sure to stock up on a few more pipes before I left, but it still helps when I can hit them off of something high up, or even if they Tony Hawk Pro Skater down this light fixture, like they're grinding a rail. But in the end, I do find who I'm tasked to find. Then it's time for what I feel to be the absolute best scene in the game, the elevator ride up. In all seriousness, it does such a good job at setting up a creepy and foreboding atmosphere. Hopefully we get a few more scenes like this in future games. Oh, but I'm supposed to be making this funny, hold on. I then proceed to trample all over the tension that was built up by simply standing on top of this sign and bonking zombies when they try to climb up after me. The entire rest of the VNC tower mission isn't difficult, just simply don't fall to your death. Look, I even managed to remember to get this inhibitor this time before giving the tower to Frank. Then Lawan comes to make sure I'm okay in her own special way, but I swear every time I see this scene I can only think of this clip. With the antenna up and running now, we start getting some crazy gossip about me over the radio, and I've got to go beat them up personally to defend my own honor.
Where's Waltz? We don't need Waltz to deal with you.
As you all know, this is another section of the game where we're forced into Black Spider-Man suit mode. This section is a lot more tricky because it doesn't simply end when you land on someone's head this time. Instead, you actually are required to take the time and take out every single enemy. Since I can't use anything other than a pipe, I'm forced to find other methods. First, I tried landing on them and knocking them into spikes, but the enemy doesn't really stay close enough to the spikes for that to be effective. I also tried perfect parrying them into the spikes, but while you're in this mode, you don't even register hits to your character. So what I ended up doing was standing nearby these spikes, and sometimes they would knock or hit each other into it, and when that stopped working, I would just knock them off this light fixture repeatedly until they died to Newton himself. After a while, I wake up to Frank standing over me like one of those ghosts in those Paranormal Activity movies, and he says Hakon wants to meet me at some random church. This in no way could possibly be a trap, so I go. Usually in this fight, I absolutely love to chuck Hakon behind this bench to kill him instantly, but since I don't have access to the grapple ability in this challenge, I have to come up with the next best thing. That thing being hitting him off this ledge over and over again. In the end, I didn't even have to do anything to him. He simply fell on his own and died because he couldn't stand up. Now that he and I are best friends again, it's time to go seek out Veronica to hopefully finally get some information on Mia. This whole area reminds me a lot of Dr. Camden's area in the first game, and I really don't like it, so I just get through it as fast as humanly possible. The best part of this mission being when we get to fight the renegades, because it's honestly just a lot of fun to smack them around. With the help of my brand new level 2 grappling hook, I have absolutely no issue getting through this area quickly and leaving Waltz as far behind as possible before I have to fight him. This is essentially just a prelude to our fight later, kinda similar to how the Barney fight was. Each hit from my pipe at this point is doing pretty decent damage to him, so it's just a matter of learning his attack patterns. Since I have to get so close to him to hit him with my pipe, I'm pretty susceptible to just about every attack in his arsenal, so I've got to be extremely careful. But luckily for me, I only have to get him to half health to take him out here. After being saved by a Luan after a missile strike, somehow.
Keep away from me, Luan.
Yeah, Lawan has that effect on me too. Frank, Juan, and Jack Matt all set up a meeting with the Butcher to convince him to call off the rest of the strikes. And honestly, this mission looks so much cooler in low light. But yeah, Frank gets shot with a poison-tipped arrow, I fly across the city to get some essential oils and crystals from the witch doctor to cure him, and then I fly across the map once again, chasing the vehicle to make them pay. Then this, ladies and gentlemen, is the start of the final mission. I've got lots of backup pipes, insanely high gear score, and almost every skill worth having. I think I'm ready. The first obstacle was to take out this band of renegades inside this confined space. In a general sense, 4 shots is all it takes at this point to take out a small enemy, and so long as I had spikes in the area, the bigger enemies were nothing. Somehow on the way to the renegade hideout, us driving this truck magically doesn't summon about 40 volatiles to decimate us, so that's lucky I suppose. But it doesn't matter because apparently the drive was so long that by the time we arrived it was midday. I find it so funny. The game desperately wants you to stealth here, but there's absolutely no need. Just watch, it's so much fun running through it like this. But then after a few more super epic moments like the Night Runners coming together again, I come across what's essentially the final abnormal hurdle of the game as I enter the Avatar state again. Again, I can't attack while in this mode, so I have to find another way to take out all of the enemies in this section. The Volatiles have absolutely no issue taking out the renegades in this area, but they themselves are a whole issue on their own. They don't stagger, they don't take fall damage, that pretty much only leaves knocking them to places where they can't get up. And the tops of these water things work wonderfully for that. Like I said, they can't be staggered or moved around too much, but if you jump into them, sometimes they'll be forced to make room for where you're going to land, and it'll gently nudge them off the side of the ledge. If their arm gets lodged somewhere, they'll dangle like a curtain and take themselves out. It did take 2 tries, not because I died, but because one of the Volatiles just kinda napped. He laid down and didn't want to get up, but the second time around was super successful, and now I can get on to the final battle of the challenge. Waltz is honestly quite the force to be reckoned with on Nightmare difficulty if you don't have any ranged weapons. Like I mentioned earlier, you're susceptible to every single one of his attacks if you have to close the distance to attack him yourself. So needless to say, this was going to be a tough fight. Thanks to my scavenging throughout the game, I have an absolute crap ton of medkits at my disposal, so unless I'm killed super quickly, I should have enough time to get off a heal. Plus, you can kinda just jump down under the arena if you need to take a break. Waltz doesn't seem to mind too much. Phase 2 was a bit more involved though. If any of you have ever played the old Black Ops Zombies, you'll know what I mean when I say Waltz windmills you here just like they used to. It's a flurry of like 5 blows back to back that could kill you instantly if you're not careful. So I have to make sure to attack a few times, backstep, and keep my distance in order to succeed here. I will say though, it's always super funny looking when he just runs away. The third fight is kinda just more of the same, only you have to do it on these tiny little platforms. If you fall off closer to the top, you're probably dead, so I had to be extra careful. So long as you keep your back to the wall and dodge sideways instead of backwards, there really wasn't much to worry about, honestly. Then finally, since from what I can tell there's absolutely no way to damage Waltz with environmental means, as soon as he gets to about this much health left, I'm put into the volatile state one last time, and that is the end of the challenge. And there you have it. I'll go ahead and let the rest of the game play out while I speak, since it's just the finale of the fight and the Luan ending, but it most certainly is possible to complete the game with only pipes. I know a couple of people are going to ask why I didn't mod the weapon, and the simple answer to that is just that even with an artifact grade pipe, I wasn't able to. There were no mod slots available other than a charm for some reason, but that's alright. I felt like it added an extra element to the challenge. The mixture of limiting myself to such a terrible weapon and nighttime only was a wombo combo that I was really not prepared for. I was so surprised to see just how much changed with the fact Volatiles could play peekaboo with you at any moment from around a corner. This challenge was honestly so much fun. I really need to think up some more Dying Light 2 challenges to do. So if you have any ideas, let me know. But for those of you who stayed all the way till the end, I made sure to get this ending just for you. I had to end it off in the right way after all.
And good luck.